All right. All right, so welcome everyone. This is Intro to Shoulder Mobility. I'll be replaying this and sharing it later on. Not quite sure how I'm going to do that, but we will just get it out to the mass public because we want people to heal their shoulders and be able to have great shoulder mobility and decreased pain. So the bulk of the class today, we're really working on the different ranges of the shoulder. So I guess I don't really need my dowel quite yet. And I'm going to just tilt my camera ever so slightly up because you can see me better when I do that. So just give me 1 second. I had it down for interacting earlier. All right, does that look-ish good? I want to make sure that you guys can see me on an even plane. So go ahead and come to standing, come to the top of your mat. We're going to explore a shoulder range of motion. Hopefully that's good. All right, so come to mountain pose, place your feet hip distance apart, and start to rip the ground apart under your feet, just generating torque like we normally do in all of our classes. And today is really about understanding how our scapula and humerus move relative to our clavicle bone. So let's just do a little palpation here. So just feel this, your humerus bone. You've got your scapula, which are the wingy sort of, if you're to kind of dig in there, that's your scapula on either side. Just give it a little feel, just make sure you know it's there. You've got your clavicle bone here. So the ranges of the shoulder, the scapula can elevate and depress. And notice the humerus, the arm bone, goes up and down with it. The scapula can retract and protract. So just do these motions with me so you get to become a little bit more familiar with these ranges. So if you want to say it out loud, feel free to mute your guys' microphones if you're not already and just kind of verbalize the motion so you get it. So we got elevation, depression, retraction, protraction, retract, protract, and then the arm bone swivels in its socket. So it's a ball and socket joint. So take your hands like this, external rotation, internal rotation, external here, arm bone is swiveling away from the midline, and then into the midline is internal. So we got internal, external. There's a few more. So we've got our arm flexion. So arm flexion is here. This will be one of our tests today that we're going to test arm flexion and see how much we can increase this range. And then we've got our abduction, abduction, moving away from the body. So there's a lot of different movements. It's a very complex joint, which is why it gets injured often. So we really want to make sure we understand how to increase mobility in these ranges and how to do so safely. And I apologize, I need to do one more tiny little shift with this camera so that it's tighter. Okay, it just needs to go down a hair. Cool, that's much better. Okay, so our 3 tests. So I'm really big on objective feedback. Like I want to know, is this mobility drill actually serving a purpose? And the really quick way to know that that's happening is to do these quick little mobility screens. So go ahead and come to your mat, and if you want to just watch me real quick, I'll show you how to initiate your screen, but come to kneeling or wherever you can see me. And you're going to close your knees together. It's a tight child's pose. You're going to place your let's start with your right arm. So this right arm goes right directly in center of your knees. And then the back hand, palm faces out, and it's here. So I start in this kind of hunkered down child's pose. And here, what I'm looking at is thoracic rotation. So you're going to estimate. So if this is 0 degrees, I want everyone, if you want to take notes, you can. So you're going to estimate how far in rotation to my left can I go before hitting a fascial restriction in maybe upper back or thoracic spine. And try that a couple times. So try not to cheat. A lot of times we'll kind of crank it. We're like, oh, I really want to do this. If your hips shift off center, then you have compensated to actually access that range. So I'm going to check everyone's form. Your hand is behind your back. Cool. You're doing your thoracic rotation. Just check in if I see, yep, good, Angela. Adrian, welcome back. Robbie, cool. Tyler, go ahead and come up. Nice. So it's just stop right when you reach that end range in case you're reaching a little too far. So just pause right there. Cool. And then switch sides. Nice, Lee. So you're gathering your objective data, and we're going to run through these mobility screens multiple times throughout the practice today so that we can see how little things start to impact different ranges of motion. So you'll notice if you're different on one side, oftentimes people are asymmetrical. They have more range in one direction. For me, I was a volleyball player, softball player, and pole vaulter. So everything was rotation on that one side, like lifting up to hit the ball, swinging the bat, always pole vaulting always on the right side. So I have a really deep, deep pattern from years of athletics on that side. You might have something similar. If you're constantly using the one side, we start to develop compensation patterns. So go ahead and write down your objective measurements. What was my degrees of range of motion? Normal range of motion should be about 40 to 45. If you're sitting in the 30 degree range, then there's definitely some room for improvement. Our second mobility screen, you can stand against a wall if you have one. I'm gonna just briefly stand against one back here, and then I'm gonna come back. Actually, I'll pretend this is my wall. Let's imagine this is like a vertical, because I don't want to go out of the screen too much. So let's imagine this wall goes all the way up, because we have really good imagination networks. We're going to test our standing hollow body arm flexion. So go ahead and come to standing. Find a neutral pelvis. Take your arms by your side. Take your arms straight up out here, and then keeping your arms rigid without losing the hollow body position, feet hip distance apart, slowly, slowly start to bring your arms up and overhead. And the moment that you have to compensate and come out of hollow body, you've lost your true range of motion, and then you're kind of coming into like a not true range of motion. And then come back down. So let's try that again. Palms face each other, reach, reach, reach. Keep your abs, your abdominals kind of core set it in that hollow body position. Reach. Notice if I come here, I come into hyperextension in order to achieve my hands touching the wall behind me. That's not really true to my true shoulder flexion. So I want to just raise to the degree that I can maintain hollow body. So I want you to just estimate or guesstimate how many inches away from the wall, and you can write this down. Writing it down is going to help, because then you're going to do 3 different tests throughout the class today, and you're going to see those numbers change as we go through. So arms have to be straight, Casey. Elbows are straight here. So you might be here. Wherever you start to lose that hollow body, that is your measurement. Elbow straight, even straighter. Cool. And don't try to hit the wall, just go to your end range. All right, everyone collect their data. Last one, the old shoulder clasp. So if you've trained at our studio, we do movement screens. We actually measure the distance with our private training clients of what their shoulder internal and external rotation is. Take your arms like this. Reach your right hand up, bend, close your fist, not creepy fingers, but close fist. Point your other hand down and try to get your hands as close as you can together. And we're just gonna estimate, if we had a partner measuring, we would see or estimate, is there a fist in between? A fist is roughly 4 inches, depending on how big your fists are, 3 to 4 inches. Let's switch sides. Top hand goes up. Gathering some data, noticing, do I have a bigger gap on my right side or my left side? Just taking in information. Uh-oh, we lost someone. Oh, no, we didn't. Cool. Okay, so if my fist is, 4 inches, go ahead and write down your data with right hand on top, your right hand, and your left hand. And this is an interactive workshop too, so there'll be times when I ask you guys questions just to make sure that you're learning this stuff. And if you want to see what's on my little board, this is how my crazy brain works. So we've got our 3 tests: our child's pose, our standing hollow body, our shoulder clasp. These are in your notes. We are going to address 3 common misalignments in the shoulders and common immobility patterns. So the first one is limited arm flexion. So that shows up often in poses like downward facing dog. So since we're not totally warmed up, we're not going to attempt down dog, but we will actually assess that during practice today. So go ahead and start with your feet hip distance apart. And let's just do a brief spinal warm-up just to make sure we're calibrated before we begin. Take your hands to prayer, pack your shoulders, tear the ground apart under your feet. Think of your why. So why did you come to practice today? What areas did you want to improve? What did you want to put energy or focus into? And start to cultivate that sort of relationship with your body as you move through practice. Inhale, peel your hands back, open the heart, unfurl. Inhale. On your exhale, shoot and round. Create a clasp, point your fingers forward, thumbs crossed, pack your shoulders. Inhale, arms come back, extend through the fingertips, take your time. Exhale, shoot and round, finding slight concavity and just pulling the fascia in your upper mid back. 3 more, inhale. And exhale, ha. Inhale. And exhale. So what we're doing here, if we're wanting to look at the degrees of freedom in which our spine is moving, we're moving through a pitching pattern. So we're coming into spine flexion and spine extension. And it's really important as we go through all fascial mobility drills that we maintain what's called full fascial tension. So when there's a power leakage at a joint, let's say my arms kind of bend here, the force that's distributed on the frontline fascia, it stops and it's shortened. So if I'm able to use my entire arm as a lever, then I can actually distribute more force against my fascia, which essentially allows it to change shape more. Inhale. Is the myofascial matrix. It's a crystalline matrix of connective tissue. So as we apply forces over time and we add heat, which is what we're doing with pulping, that's what allows the fascia to start to change shape. All right, let's come back to center, arms down, roll the shoulders, up, down, and back. Let's do some thoracic slides, right and left, right and left. There's not a whole lot of scapular moving. We're just kind of priming the area in our spine so that the core is active before we begin. So you can take your slides into circles, hands to the thighs, find chest expansion, slide to your left, round your back, slide right, forward, left, round, and right, and then smooth out your circles. So oftentimes in a lot of our classes, we do joint mobility in full circular range of motion, switch directions, and that's because we are tubular beings, so our body is like a cylinder. So as we pulp the fascia, meaning we add heat, we activate previously dormant motor units within the spine, it helps to awaken areas that might have been phased off or have what's called sensory motor amnesia due to injury or overuse or compensation patterns. Come back to center. So the more we mobilize it, the more we can start to turn it on. Okay, so limited lateral flexion. Let's do a little sun salutation and see if we can assess where our shoulder flexion is in down dog. So starting in mountain pose, ground through the feet, lengthen through crown. Inhale, circle sweep, arms up, look up. Exhale, forward fold over the legs, ha, head hangs down. Inhale, halfway lift, come to flat back. Exhale, fold, step back to a high plank. Shift your shoulders forward, lower your knees, chest, chin, all the way down to the earth. Inhale, lift the front body, baby cobra. So you're drawing your scapula into elevation, then depression, then a slight bit of retraction, squeeze. Exhale, lower. Press your hips up, curl your toes under, come to your downward facing dog. Knees are bent, shoulders pressing back. And just assess, am I able to get a line of arms in line with trunk? Am I able to actually get those two to be in the same plane? And it's your first down dog of the day, so don't expect, crazy results, but we're just assessing what is my shoulder flexion before I'm warmed up, before I've done all these mobility drills. And then start to scoot your feet back just a little bit. Then start to press back. We don't want to dump into our shoulder mobility. We want to keep a micro bend here and keep stability in the shoulder socket. Inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, bend your knees. Walk, jump, or feet to meet the hands. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, circle sweep. So another place where this shows up is upward mountain pose. So see if you can get your arms straight up overhead, the palms facing each other, maintaining that core set of your abdominals. Look up, press palms together if you can, if you have the mobility. Otherwise, just keep them separated. Then exhale, hands to prayer. Hands by your side, mountain pose. And one other posture where shoulder flexion comes into play is our warrior one. So let's get there from a hatha stance. So take a little knee bend and step back with your left leg into a warrior one leg stance. So our back foot is about 45 degrees. Our front knee is bent about not all the way to 90. The hips are squared forward, hands to prayer. Level one, arms straight ahead. And again, your arms, if you're lacking shoulder range of motion due to tight lats and serratus anterior, which are the lats are down here, serratus is just kind of right about here, it's going to be really hard for you to get your hands all the way back there. So you might find yourself hyperextending in your back in order to get there. Core set your abdominals in, be true to your shoulder range of motion, and to modify, take your arms slightly apart so that your arms start to look more like a Y. And over time, you can find that scapular depression. We'll do a lot of mobility drills to increase this range. Over time, you'll find yourself able to bring your hands closer together. Take the hands to prayer, step forward, left leg, step back, right leg. Again, we're just gathering data. We're like, all right, hips are squared. How far do my arms want to go before I start compensating and dumping into thoracic extension to achieve that range? Do I need to widen out my arms like a Y? Can I keep my elbows straight so that I'm not leaking power, so I'm actually able to apply the full force from my limb, my lever, into my trifecta of my lats, my core, and my glutes? And can I connect all three of those? All right, and then hands to prayer, step it back, mountain pose. Okay, so we've got some benchmarks. We know how it works in poses. Thumbs up if you feel good about that stuff. Learned something? Great. Okay, let's go into our open chain mobility. So starting with shoulder circles, I recommend doing shoulder circles against a wall whenever you can, but since I don't have a wall here today, I have an imaginary wall right here. If you have a wall and you want to go over to it, do it, because it gives you motor feedback so that you're actually working against something. So again, let's imagine this is my wall. You're standing up against it. Everyone place your left hip against the wall. And see if you can still face me for the first one. If you need to flip it and do the other side so you can face me, that's totally fine. Okay, so your left hip is up against the wall. Take your hand and find full fascial tension, meaning if I had like a sword, I'm drilling this sword into the soil and then packing the shoulder to engage full fascial tension. And I'm screwing, so you can literally grab your arm bone, screw it into its socket and press down, scapular depression to activate the lat. From here, shoulder circles, open chain. Bring your arms straight ahead. Ensure that you still have full fascial tension. Then reach your hand up overhead. Oop, that's my shoulder flexion range. Am I cheating? Am I compensating? Maybe I need to step away from the wall a little bit, yeah, so I don't hit it. Now, as you reach back, start to drive like you're driving a sword behind you. So you'll notice your arm kind of opens up and you're feeling a stretch on your frontline fascia, and then sweep right past your hip. Let's try that again. Inhale. Reach up. Keep inhaling the whole entire time. If you're feeling gravel, you need to scoot away from the wall. So Robbie, scoot away from the wall, please, a little bit, like a foot away from your wall. Yep, so that you're not scraping the wall, yes. So 10 repetitions of open chain shoulder circles. When you get into that end range that feels like you're starting to phase off innervation, like you're starting to lose control of being able to maintain fascial tension, that's where you want to put the breath. So we're using parasympathetic breathing. Inhale deeply through nose and exhale. So open chain just means I'm doing something in space. I'm not actually touching the ground. We'll do closed chain mobility drills as well. So we're going for 10 repetitions each side. I see Adrian, keep your elbow completely straight. So if my circles need to be here, it's better for my circles to be here because then I'm utilizing the whole full fascial tension of my arm and shaving off immobility of my current range. So I think a lot of us, we're not quite ready to go here. We need to shave it off and keep arms straight the whole time. All right, go ahead and switch sides, flip to the opposite side. Nice, Angela. Okay, so first we establish full fascial tension. So it's the cumulative energy from all of your joints, your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder. Drive down, reach forward. So these are called, if you want to reference your notes, these are just backward arm circles. I like the backward ones because they open up the frontline fascia a little bit more. And what I'm looking for is my ball and socket joint is not static. It's not just here the whole time. I actually have to rotate and open to get my hand to point back here versus keeping it internally rotated. I'm externally rotating as it reaches behind. Last two and last one. That can eventually translate into club work. I know most of you guys don't have clubs, but that maps the motor pattern for a pendulum swing. Just observe. Pendulum swing, the traction of the club is pulling away from my body. That can translate into a full circle as well. So it would go, this would be a backward circle, reaching back, landing here, reaching back. So that's an open chain mobility drill that primes that club bell drill, which we can learn in other classes. All right, second, shoulder screws. Stand with your feet in mountain pose. And I know you guys have probably done shoulder screws with me, but these are gonna be your best, most activated shoulder screws you've ever done. Sound good? Cool. Feet hip distance apart. Core set your abdominals in. Feel your core, make sure it's on. Arms out to a T. You've got rigid arms. You're driving out. If you were stacking you had big wooden boxes underneath your arms, or if you're a gymnast, you're doing literally the iron cross here. So here we go. Elevate, depress, elevate, depress, elevate, hold, elevate, rotate arm bone in its socket, protract, bring it in towards the midline, and then reach your opposite arm in the opposite direction. Unscrew all three of those actions, and then pack your shoulders. Elevate, depress, just establish elevation, depression first. Then layer on the sophistication. So we got elevation, big rotation, screw the shoulder in its socket, and unscrew. Maintain full fascial tension the whole time. Elevate, rotate, screw down, find where the gravel is. The gravel is actually calcium deposits sometimes from fascial adhesion, so fibrous little bits in your connective tissue. And over time, as we start to work in our actual range of motion, we apply the breath, the parasympathetic breathing. We're able to pulp the fascia so that the fibers reorganize all in their natural resting length. Alternate sides. Elevate, rotate, screw down, hold. Unscrew. Add your neck mobility. So close your fist, Robbie, make your fist really rigid so you've got maximum fascial tension in that lever arm. So as we rotate our head to the side, notice how that impacts the trap. Elevate, rotate, screw down. If your arms are burning, that's good. Keep going. Start to build your endurance in those small little rotator cuff muscles. All right, arms down, roll the shoulders up, down, and back. Join the feet together. Take your hands to your hips. Chair with shoulder slides is our next open chain mobility drill. So with hands on hips, feet together, case, hands to hips, seal it up so there's no gap all the way. Sit back, find chair pose. See that your spine is neutral here. So sit back, squeeze your knee muscles together. Take your arms up overhead and the palms are facing each other like this. Start to tone your core. So pinkies wrap in. This is our internal rotation moment. So if I just stayed here, I have limited internal. Find maximum internal. Exhale, slide your elbows back, ha. And this time I do want you to go into a bit of thoracic opening. Inhale, arms up, pinkies in, exhale, ha, ujjayi your breath. 3 more, inhale, and exhale. So how is mobility different than flexibility? Keep going, 2 more. Arms all the way straight, wind them out like a V there, Robbie, yep. So we're not going from number 11 arms to straight down, we're going from V arms, yes, to straight down. Mobility is moving our joints through the full end range of motion with control and activation. Flexibility, last one, is a static measurement. Arms down. So when I test my flexibility, it's a degree, right? When I flex my mobility, it's how mobile are my joints and how much am I able to control those joints through their full range of motion. Take a knee. Final open chain mobility for lateral flexion. And we'll go into our closed chain. And we'll review what you guys have learned. So take a knee, your left leg is forward. So here, squeeze your back glute on, arms up. Level 1, so we're shortening our lever, we're grabbing the elbows. Level 2, if you have the hand clasp and you can get here with elbows straight without hyperextending to reach up, then do that. Otherwise, be true to your flexibility and go here. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, laterally bend to your left. And then come back to the center. So the fascia, or the area, the fascial restriction that limits shoulder flexion range, so our ability to get our hands over our head, the 2 main culprits, our lats and our serratus. So here we're pulping that area, applying multiple repetitions to increase our mobility, our active range of motion. You can stay here with just the pulp side to side. Otherwise, you can come to a circle. So lateral bend, slight fold forward. Again, we're tubular beings. Come back around. Mobilize the spine, the thoracic spine. Start to apply a greater force. If you like, if it feels wobbly or unstable, just stick with the first variation. That's totally fine. Last 2. And Casey, make sure that you're grabbing your elbows and creating a little cup like you're actually touching. Yes, to create that full fascial tension. And squeeze hard, like really work on the grip strength. Yes. Load it down, roll the shoulders. Switch sides. We're doing quite a bit of mobility on the shoulders today, so normal for you to feel a little sore tomorrow because you're waking up muscles that are normally sleeping or dormant. Switch sides. Now, if you did like elbow clasp, see if you can grab your opposite elbow this time. So our right leg is forward. Start with the lateral bend. Notice your breath. So every time you come into extension, inhale, lengthen. Exhale as you arrive into flexion, and just linger there. Like, can you be there with a soft face and unfurrowed brow? Back to center. Can you train your nervous system to respond when you actually reach your true end range instead of trying to force it to go deeper? And then can you pulp within that range? So if I come to a deep lateral bend and I want to add to my ranges of motion, I can pulp and come forward, back around, lateral. Other variations of pulping would be just to tilt my pelvis forward and back. The little Adrian move. It's always tilting and pulping from a lower distal joint. Last one. Arms down. Roll the shoulders. Then make your way to standing in a spine intelligent way. So just a quick review. We covered our shoulder circles, open chain. We covered our shoulder screws, more complex. We covered our chair with arm slides. We covered kneeling lunge with lateral bend option for circles. Feel good about those? Thumbs up. Shoulders feeling happy? Yay. Okay. Close chain. Grab your dowel or your broomstick. If you don't have one, use an imaginary one. So this is one of the most effective ways to increase shoulder range of motion. Start with your feet hip distance apart. Take your dowel on your head and measure a goalpost. So this indicates what angle, so widen it out there, Robbie, because you're a little too acute. You want to be a full goalpost, 90 degrees. Widen your hands out. There we go. Cool. Press your arms overhead. Bring them down. So we're closing the kinetic chain by utilizing this tool as a feedback tool. So I want you to rip arms down by your front like this. Rip the dowel apart. Contract your core. Maintain hollow body. Elevate dowel to shoulder height. Rip, rip, rip. Come back down. Find your breath, 5 reps. Rip the whole entire time, finding our abduction. Core set your abdominals in, elbows are straight, realign your spine. If you want to add a little neck mobility, you can just kind of look to either side. Just feeling into my fascia web that houses my musculoskeletal system on the outside of it. They say your consciousness is in your fascia. So as we store different sort of somatic feedback loops from different memories in our fascia, you might notice things kind of come up. Let's go to shoulder height, and then we're going to go to right over the crown of head. So this may or may not be accessible for you depending on if you left hollow body or not. So be true to your hollow body range. Come back through the shoulder height position. Keep tearing it apart. So you have different ways of generating torque. You can crush, which we do a lot of times in Mace, but today I really want to focus on pulling apart and maybe a little bit of a twist. When we arrive here, we can do like a bend, like we're bending it in half. 5 reps. So the purpose of going progressively like this, we want to coax the nervous system into being able to actually be active in all ranges. So if I went straight all the way to here and then back behind me, I missed out on a lot of feedback that I could be giving my shoulders. Casey, wider with your hands, a little bit wider, yeah. Cool. And then Gail, widen out with your hands too. And don't go so high up overhead at first. Take your time and just linger. So the next phase of this, they call it in conventional lifting shoulder dislocates. I actually did dislocate my shoulder, so I'm not going to go very far. So I'm here and then back down. If you have really mobile joints, you could open your fingers like this. You don't have to pull it apart as much, and you can go to a deeper range, maybe here and then back. So that's about as far as I want to go because my shoulder's still learning how it needs to be stable in its socket. I've had pretty darn good success so far with that injury, but everyone has the potential to experience injury, and we need to know what is our toolbox to heal our shoulders. So there's little nuance in all these little things that you can kind of start to cultivate. So these ones, I call it shoulder flossing. Over time, look, I even, just from doing like 5 reps, really mobile shoulders, but I can get it a little farther behind you. So take it to your full end range. All the way, everyone. Full end range. Breathe. Inhale. Lift a little higher, exhale. Breathe into the front part of your shoulders. Last one. High gaze on the horizon and back down. Set your dowel down, chugging breath, inhale through nose. Exhale, little vibration through your fascial web coming from your feet, letting that vibration follow all the way through. So we're just kind of shaking in place. Inhale deeply and exhale. 2 more closed train mobility drills. These ones you probably won't see in class. It's a lot with private personal training clients. You can observe first before you get on the ground. So the motion, I'm coming into like a gunslinger prone on my belly, like this. Toes are pointed, I'm in hollow body. I reach my hands over to my side, right here. And then I slide my hands underneath my body and then come down carefully so that I'm, again, applying force to this load here, my fascia. I want to shift the shape here. You're going to feel ouchy here because this is the most inflamed area. And then I'm also releasing residual tension in my bicep by having full body load here. If you need to modify, you know that's not good for your body. Your modification is to move from here out to here, pointing the toes, maintaining hollow body, maybe halfway, and just don't come down onto your body. Okay, everyone, take the floor. 5 to 8 reps on each side. This is nobody's favorite drill, I promise you, but it is really powerful for shoulder mobility. So put your mind in your shoulders, put your mind in your breath, point your fingers out, hollow body, zip up the legs, squeeze the glutes on. Everyone, roll over onto your left shoulder, hold. Level 1 is here. And then bring it back. Let's just establish that range. Again, working progressively so that we can just gradually increase the range. Maybe you're pointing down a little bit. And then when you get to here, forehead kisses the ground, you're pressing your arms against the ground, and you're maintaining hollow body, mitten corset your abdominals in. Keep that hollow body the whole time. Level 3. Hands come underneath the body. And come out. Try not to get tangled in your glasses chain. That's just me. So we sweep. We maintain fascial tension in there. Very straight elbows. We come down with control. If you've been in CST, these are closed chain mobility drills from 6 Degree Flow or FlowFit. They work like magic, but they are not your favorite because you have to be in this awkward position, bearing load on muscles that don't often get bear load on. Switch sides. Switch your hand grips, make your funky point your finger the other way. Everyone to the left side, hold, and back. Toes are pointed, rigid core. Option to go a little deeper. Option to come all the way over that right shoulder and then back around and through. And I apologize, I'm sure my microphone's doing all sorts of fun stuff down here. I'm gonna watch your guys' form and give you a little coaching because I know this one's easy to cheat. So when you arrive at the prone position, your nose is touching the mat. You should not be able to see your head. Your toes are pointed there, Case. Good, Lee. Zip it up. Everything tight and rigid. Maximize fascial tension. Last 2. Last 1. Hand rest. Final closed chain drill. You can peek up here if you'd like to see. Sideline scapular elevation depression. So I'm going to take a sideline stance, observe. So I'm on you can be on your right shoulder. So I'm utilizing the force. I have to lift my bum up a little bit. I'm utilizing the force of my body to make my body move so that my scapula is in elevation and depression, okay? So go ahead and come down onto your right side, face me if you want. Take your back leg as your kickstand. Palm is facing up, hands can rest here. If this hurts or is too much, even just lifting is fine. See if you can just slide your body up and slide it down. Yes, scapular elevation, depression. You need to see up here. Elevate, depress. And then where did your breath go? Did you go into fight or flight? Can you reverse that response and start to come back into parasympathetic? We'll aim for about 5 to 8 repetitions on that side. And then let's sweep it around and switch sides. So, lying in a sideline position, hand is facing up. Elevate, depress. Elevate, depress. You can have your palm facing up or down. You got a kickstand helper leg here. Got a helper hand here. Breathing. 5 to 8 repetitions. So bearing load the load of your body, notice how that changes from when we did open chain. So now our shoulder has to actually go to its true end range of motion with a lot more force or load on that bound fascia. So what the result is that it's going to help increase your range of motion in your shoulder. All right, come on up to standing and let's do our test. So we're not going to do the child's pose test because this didn't really change our thoracic range of motion. We will do our standing hollow body test and our shoulder clasp test, and we're going to take our data down. Sound good? Yay, we like scientific method. Okay, so feet hip distance apart. You are back against a wall, guys. Find your wall. It's my imaginary wall. Okay, so imagine I have a wall behind me. I'm maintaining the corset of my abs and rigid arms. I'm reaching straight up, maintaining hollow body, hollow body, hollow body. Coming to my true end range. Do I have more activation there? Probably yes. Do I have a slight increase in my range of motion before I have to compensate and either bend my arms or make my back into like a thoracic extension and to get there, or we call it rib flare. So try it again, straight arms. Keep that space between upper ASIS joint and hip, so minimize rib flare. And then the second that you feel yourself hitting your end range, that's when you stop. Arms are straight, shoulders packed, neck is long. And go ahead and write your data down. And just give me how many degrees of increase you increase your range in shoulder flexion. So just give me a thumbs up if it was between 0 and 5 degrees that you increased it. Thumbs up for 0 to 5 degrees. Cool. Awesome. How about 5 degrees to 10 degrees? Awesome. Good. How about more than 10 degrees? Okay. So they're minimal changes, but did you guys all feel double thumbs up if you had more activation in that range and more awareness of how to maintain hollow body? Awesome. So it's working. Cool. Second common misalignment. Shoulders rolled forward. The human cashew that we sit in all day. Oh my gosh. I'm getting so sick of sitting in a chair. I gotta stand. I gotta get my standing desk on lockdown. So that common misalignment results from a prolonged position here. So basically all the cumulative force of being in a slightly contracted state over time, our fascia here wants to adapt to that position so that it doesn't have to do as much work in firing to maintain it. So the body's smart, it's gonna adapt to that position by creating residual tension and then myofascial density, because then it gets to hold that position without having to actually work for it and actually doing like that position, that action with a concentric load. So the shoulder circles that we did, go ahead and come to standing. Let's build on the complexity for those. So feet hip distance apart. Start with your right side. So we did shoulder circles backwards, review these. And then what if we did a shoulder circle across the body? So we started here and our right arm came across the body as much as we could. And then when we met the wall, we reached into a backward circle. We came across and then back. This is a figure 8. So across, but we're kind of working through 2 planes. So if it was a true figure 8, it's kind of like a folded figure 8. So I'm coming, or an infinity sign. So I'm moving through my full end range. And by adding the transition between the 2 planes, again, my fascia is super malleable and it adapts to the forces placed upon it. So over time, if I can increase the heat and increase how much exposure I'm getting it to the end range with activation, then my nervous system is going to adapt and actually create true change. Switch sides. Left arm straight, shoulder circle, back, back, back. This arm's a little more delicate for me. And then let's go forward. So we could actually start at the top. So start at the top, we go across the body, stop at the hip, and then reach back, across, turn, rotate, do a backward circle. Inside circle, meaning we're moving towards the inside first, and then backward circle. And then continue to weave those together with full fascial tension in your arm. And those of you guys that are, most of us are all members at the studio, I challenge you guys to watch this video. I'm gonna give it to you guys all obviously for free, but I want you to actually do this. If you have shoulder issues, I want you to do this video like once a week, or at least like chunks of it, once or twice a week as homework. Because, what is it, 99% practice, 1% theory? That's what yoga is, and without the practice, we don't get the benefits. So that's our only open chain that we're gonna touch on for the rounded forward shoulders. And the rest of them are gonna be closed chain. So we actually can use our body as our prop. So hook your, let's go your right side. So you're gonna grab, grab, grab. And I might be able to grab a little higher than you. Your grab might have to be down here. So grab wherever you can make a little true hook. So your hand is just like this, feet hip distance apart. So here I'm closing the kinetic chain so that my fascia feels the feedback of, yes, this is my end range. So core set the abdominals in, scapula lifted, elevated, depressed, so that it's seated in where we want it to be, right? And you might feel a little stretch here. Now take your fist and point your fist down like you're stabbing a sword into soil. And then if you want to creep your hand a little higher, you can. Elevate, retract, depress, hold. 5 to 8 reps. Elevate, retract, depress, hold. Creep the hand a little higher. Guess what range of motion this one's probably working on? Maybe the shoulder clasp test is going to improve. We keep a micro bend in our knees, feet are hip distance apart. We're using our little hand clasp moment to really indicate our true end range of motion. Because when I do an open chain in the air, I have a lot of guesswork, right? When I close the circuit, doing a closed chain mobility drill, there's no argument that this is actually my end range. You can creep up a little higher. Where's your breath? Neck is neutral, Robbie. Lift the chin a little bit. Get nice and tall in your neck. I want to see space between your neck and your chin. So we call this one handcuff drill. Let's go ahead and switch sides. Reach with the opposite side. Find your core-setted abdominals in, lengthen, re-imprint that neutral posture. Elevate, retract, depress. Elevate, retract, depress. Keep the arm that's straight fully active so that all of that force, the cumulative force of the kinetic chain, so we've got our wrist, our elbow, our shoulder, the force accumulated from all of those joints being active then gets to be applied to the area where the bound fascia is. Thanks, Casey. Yes, and adding fascial mobility drills, like self-myofascial release to these is awesome. So we don't have RAD balls today, but let's say you wanted to release the outer tricep. You could do some of these drills lying down and mobilize the joint with the balls as well. All right, so two more closed, actually several more closed chain. Now we get to go to the floor and keep going with closed chain. These are highly effective for if you ever shy away from wanting to do back bends or any sort of shoulder opening work, this stuff's gonna really help you access that with less fear. Prone shoulder circles, observe if you need to, or if you can come down to the ground and observe down there, great. So what I'm doing here, I'm coming out, arms out to a T, elbows straight. I'm not halfway, I'm full fascial tension. From here, elevate your, it'd be your right leg, lift up and over your body. Try not to crush my little speaker box here. Take your left arm up, shoulder circles. And guess what? That top arm has full fascial tension. Go ahead and go about 5 circles in one direction. You can lift your head for more load on the front of the shoulder. Switch directions of the shoulder. So as I rotate my straight arm up, that force of me just rotating back like several times, my nervous system receives that input. It's like, oh, there's more force. Oh, there's more force right there. So I'm getting more repetitions versus me just doing a static stretch and getting less feedback. Does that make sense? Switch sides, right hand down. And this side for me is gonna be drastically different because of the shoulder injury. Actually, it's improving quite a bit than 2 weeks ago. So I'm here. So a lot of times people will try to fight. They're like, I wanna do my shoulder circles back here. I wanna be like the cool kids. So be true to your shoulder range of motion and don't be a cool kid because we want to be a mobile kid. That was a joke. All right, switch directions. But a lot of times like our brain just wants to, it sees, okay, this is end range, I'm winning if I'm here. But really, if you work in your current ranges of motion, you're going to make a lot more progress than you will if you cheat and compensate. You're just going to deepen those patterns. So go ahead and come down and let's see if we can do one on each side. So you could do alternating scorpions. because we want to switch sides. We want to get maximum exposure of our fascia being in that full end range with activation from the whole kinetic chain. So that's why this leg is really active in rotations, because I'm trying to compound how much effort is going into that shoulder joint. So you can stick with those. If you want to progress to the next one, I can barely do this one right now on the left side because it's just a lot for my shoulder. So just be really, really cautious here. But when you bend your arm, you can kind of see you guys. When you bend your arm, it just, you don't go quite as far, but you're getting a slightly different stretch. So we can go here, and you can use your hand to make a little prop or like a kickstand, and then press and fight your bent arm against the floor, point your toe, and come down, hip, knee, foot. Other side, I'm gonna be really cautious here. So this is my end range here. I'm fighting the ground with my bent arm, fighting, and then as I release the fighting, it should have a little bit more range. One more on each side. Bent arm, breathe. And switch. And 2 more closed chain drills for this range. Bridge lift and bridge lift to shoulder roll. Observe. So if you need, like I said, if you need to see, just watch me first. So my bridge lift, so old school bridge lift, not old school, but like classical asana entry. We're lifting, we're doing a hand clasp, maybe we're walking the shoulders under. Cool, that's a classical yoga asana. We're gonna do more of a tactical method of pulping fascia. We're gonna slide our hands to the insides of the feet like this. I'm gonna walk my shoulders up one at a time, hold, and come back down. Lift. So I'm actually giving my, my hands are pushing against the inside of my ankles. My fingers are driving down. The back of the head is neutral. I'm not compressing my neck here, but I'm finding scapular depression as I rise into that. So you might have to rest for a moment, take your hands out, and then reapply, walk them in, just depending on what your mobility is. You can stick with these. If you'd like to progress, peek up here. So I'm gonna lift into my shoulder bridge, and then from here, the shoulder is perfectly safe to roll over. So I'm gonna roll, and place my hand on the floor. At no point should I be compromising my neck. In fact, most of the load is on my straight arm tricep, and then come back down. Let's stay on that same side for 5 reps. If that's too much for you, just stick with the level 1, please. So we lift, we bear load on the tricep. We're massaging that ball and socket joint on the outer side. The head just rests, we're placing the palm down and holding. And it should feel pretty good on the medial delt. If it feels funky, that's probably because there's some inflammation there and tightness. Breathe. Good. And eventually that can turn into the legs sweeping around the block and then coming back in. A little more advanced. So you can lift, rotate, place, anchor, sweep, collapse for a moment, butt comes in the air, because eventually we're gonna come into a full plow, which we won't come into today. If that seems like too much, don't worry. That's next weekend's workshop. This is like a progressive like intro and a full in-depth next weekend for 2 hours. Good stuff. Okay, other side. Lift, rotate. Place the hand on the floor, the head, because that's extra load, and then back. And again, lift, rotate, hold, and then back. If you're feeling fancy, you can sweep that leg around and sweep it back. I like to keep my foot connected to the floor as I do my little sweep. So maybe Jess and Elise, since you guys have been to seminars, that might be a nice transition for you. If not, don't worry about it. Come to a seminar. You know, Robbie's coming to one in the summertime. Keep going, last 2. And last one. And rest. And let's collect some data. Sweet. So, we're going to test our shoulder flexion and our shoulder clasp. So come to your wall. Everyone against the wall? It's normal to feel a little blood flow like, woo, I just did a lot, because there's a lot of circulation happening, might be a little woozy, so just be careful coming up. So we've got our abs corseted in. I'm against an imaginary wall. Take the arms up to shoulder height. Corset the abs in, reach, reach, reach. Back down. assess that. And then really the true one that it's going to affect is this one. So we're going here. See if your hands got any closer together and you're still able to maintain that hollow body, and switch sides. I think I got like 3 inches on one side. Write your data down, please. Moving into our next board. So marking your data is important so that we can see how these drills work in real time. And then it just motivates us to want to actually do them because we're like, cool, my shoulders are improving. They're activating more, because that's always a win. Last one, thoracic spine. So common misalignment. This shows up in things like twisted chair pose, twisted lunge, maybe all the things, anything that requires a twist. If we've got bound fascia in our mid-back, it's gonna be sticky, and yucky. And look, Casey's just getting in there, I love it. Okay, so we're gonna just build on a little progression here. So I wanna get you guys out of here on time, so make sure, just come to a quadruped, pack your shoulders. I'm gonna leave a little time for Q&A at the end as well. So find your shoulder pack. So this is like a combo of open and closed chain mobility. I'm just gonna be here so you can kind of see my whole range. So what I'm looking for is I want you to actually touch your hand against your micro bent arm. So you're touching your hand against your arm, your sternum fascia, and then reaching up, and then pausing when you reach your end range. This is my true end range. I'm not gonna over hyperextend and try to cheat to get there. I'm gonna just go to where I'm actually at. And then exhale, thread your arm underneath your body, palm facing up, and then use your right arm to generate more twist. Again, inhale, reach up, stretch up, pack that right shoulder, tone your core. And exhale, thread, ha. 3 more, inhale, reach up, stretch up, find your neck mobility. Press the tops of your feet into the ground, hold, linger in that moment so that you activate everything that's been dormant and phased off because of the myofascial density, the thick leathery type fascia in mid-back that accumulates from being in a prolonged scapular protraction sort of position. Out of here! The fascia outlying the muscle on the outside of the muscle starts to adapt to achieve that. Switch sides. Somebody's screaming, that was Wendy. Wendy, go ahead and mute your mic. So let's switch sides, opposite side, inhale, reach up, and exhale, thread. Find where does the breath want to turn off? And how can we integrate the breath into the entire range? 2 more, inhale, and exhale. Back to center. From here, take your right leg forward on the outside of your right hand. Let's so now you're in a closed chain mobility drill where your leg Okay, so hopefully you got to finish that range. I think what's going on is our computer doesn't like having a lot of data on it, and I recorded the last class. So it's being funky, it's gonna be pesky, and we're just gonna deal with it. So, how did that go, guys? Everyone get it? Everyone back? Yes, thumbs up. We got an extra time on that one. Okay, so that was our kneeling arm for lunch. We got 2 more, and then we're gonna close out practice. So this is one of my faves. Make sure that you can see me. I think you guys can see me. Shin box, bow, block, and thread. Take a shin box position. I apologize, the audio is a little different here. So come to your upright stance. Shin box. Rotate. Bow. Block. Rotate around just a little bit. Place your hands down on the ground. Block. And thread. Thread is level 3. So we might be doing repetitions of just the level 1 or level 2. So for level 1, we're here. We're doing our bow with repetitions. Maybe we're level 2. We're going into our blocking. If we've got the mobility to handle the full thread, you can thread your hand underneath your body. Hop. Back to the starting position. Back the shoulders. Exhale, thread. Aim for about 5 repetitions on that side. Exhale, thread and reach. Pack the shoulders, come to the top, activate everything in your whole kinetic chain. Exhale, thread. And then switch sides. So finding your shin box on the opposite side. Bow, you're just coming over the knee. Blocking, you're rotating slightly to one side, placing the forearms down so that your hands line up with your knee and hip respectively. It's kind of like origami. And then the thread is just threading under, holding that posture in your upper and back. Exhale. Cool. All right. And then our final test to indicate how much range of motion we improved in our thoracic spine. Bring your knees together. Remember that test we did at the very beginning? Do it again. So place your whatever arm, left arm or right arm down. Place your opposite hand behind on your sacral plate with the palm facing out. And then measure your rotation. Rotate up, hold, and then back down. Take note of that. You can switch sides. Rotate up, up, up. Back down. And then write that information down because that is your data. Cool. All right, so that was practice. What did we learn? Go ahead and unmute your mics. What's one thing that you learned that you didn't know before about your shoulder? It can be about fascial tension, it can be about mobility. Share your wisdom in a bite-sized sentence. Ready? Go. Unmute.
I learned that sometimes the crunchies can be calcium buildup, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. The connective tissue definitely has a lot of calcium in there. All right, cool, awesome. Thank you, Elise. Everyone gets to share a little nugget of what they learned.
I learned that it's actually possible to get rid of that crunchy.
Yay!
I thought I was just living with it.
No, they have the crunchies, the calcium deposits can absorb back into the system. They just have to be broken up and pulped and enough times that they can start to get finer and finer. Yeah, cool. What else? Gonna hear from everyone. So think of the one thing that stood out for you, your aha moment. Where did the light bulb turn on for you?
I learned that it can be beneficial to measure your work right after, or to measure before and after. So to gather data as part of your workout, that can be motivating.
Love it. Yeah, so you'll have that those tools in your toolbox to assess your range. Cool. What else? What's one thing that stood out to you in today's workout?
I learned that it's hard to keep full fascial tension.
Oh yeah, it's difficult because your brain's like, I want to win, I want to go to there. But
yeah, that's how I work for sure.
What's that?
That's how I work for sure. I'm like, I can do the whole thing.
Have you back though. I think you're gonna get your shoulder range back real quick too.
Cool.
Cool. What else? Almost heard from everyone. Robbie, come on over, Robbie. Jess, I'm just gonna call on people. Jess, what'd you learn?
I learned that my range of motion when I go up behind my head is severely limited. So it'll be fun to work on these and see if I can improve that a little bit.
Your shoulder flexion range. Awesome. Casey.
Yeah, I found that there was a significant, wait.
I can hear you. Oh, no, I could hear you. Wait, go back. You muted yourself, but you were.
I found that there was a significant gap between this side of the stretch and this side of the stretch. And it'd be fun to learn how to close that gap on the stretch.
Cool. So those, all those prone scorpion ones that we did, where we're here, are going to help that a lot, where you're kind of fighting the earth, like using the resistance of the ground. Just review that list. We can put those together too. Robbie, what'd you learn?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I learned that, I have one shoulder that's really sore and kind of impinged, and I learned that the other shoulder has more limited range than I thought, because I've been concentrating on the sore one.
Yeah, a lot of times when we overcompensate, we develop that one side shoulder helping it out so much, then that side gets residual tension from doing twice the amount of work. So these mobility drills will really help you to unbind the fascia and bring more symmetry to your system as well. Wendy, what'd you learn? I don't know if Wendy's actually here. Hi, Wendy.
I learned how different both sides of my body are, but through those movements, it does create better movement on the side that seems more impinged.
The first step to creating change is really cultivating a deep knowing and awareness of the asymmetry. So now y'all have felt the asymmetry in your body because you spent time on it. So you can review this again. I'll share it.
You can just watch those.
And if you have friends that want to watch it, I'll be putting it. Hopefully you got most of it recorded. Angela, what'd you learn? Unmute yourself so I can hear your beautiful voice.
Sorry, that when we really slow things down, that you can like see where you skip, like the muscle isn't as engaged. And so I really enjoyed like slowing down the movement with the broomstick to really make sure that you're engaging your muscles all the way as you're raising. And my muscles take a lot of shortcuts, I learned.
Cool. Well, this is part one. This is like the prep for our weekend workshop, which will be held next weekend from 11 to 1. So if you want to go even deeper, that's a 2-hour workshop. It's on Mind Body right now. It's $20 for members. And then it's going to be a drop-in fee of like, I think $39 for non-members. And we're just trying to really hold these like educational kinesiology yoga based workshops that go a bit more in depth and make them really affordable for our members, and also just help support keeping the studio and keeping our coaches all being able to stay here and continue to work. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. And I challenge all of you guys to try at least 3 of your favorite mobility drills, 2 times this weekend. So 1 time on Saturday, 1 time on Sunday, and report in our Facebook group page and tell me how it went. All right, you guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you later. Take care.
Thanks, Summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.